starting today a little bit late because
I get double dip for breakfast. Haha.
we were really tired. After midnight last night getting in, we did make it back finally. It worked out really well. Glad I asked the guy at the station because what took me forever looking up and finding, okay, wait, now it's saying go to this platform, now it's saying go to that platform. It worked out pretty well because the attendant that I walked up to, like, in 2 seconds, he was like, I didn't even finish asking him. He's like, oh yeah, platform 7. And we got there and on just in time, so it worked out great. And the platforms were really close together. It was just a matter of finding it. And so while we were waiting on one of the platforms, and we heard the station PA system, they were calling for a platform police officer.
All available.
Yeah, and we're like, okay, well, it's probably something silly, like the one train needs to, be allowed to back up or something. I don't know. And we were walking out, and here there was evidently an altercation. Like, some guys got in. It looked like a fist fight. There was some blood spattered around, and the one guy was laying on the ground, but he was talking and stuff, so he wasn't like dead or anything. He was an older guy, and then there was a younger guy who was sitting on the bench, and the station workers were trying to just keep him away from the other guy, and some women were yelling and stuff. But we had just been right there. But then we had moved because we needed a new platform, and we went down farther to sit. So thankfully we weren't there because the people who missed the train right in front of us were actually there and watched the whole thing. So glad we didn't get to watch all that fun stuff. So today is a travel day to different areas outside of London. We're taking about an hour and going to Jane Austen's house in Chawton. And something I wanted to point out is one thing we noticed a lot on our drives when we were on major roads is that they had a lot of speed cameras posted, that there were speed cameras, but we didn't actually see any speed cameras. It's easy to point them out in Germany, but I thought their sign was fun anyway. Today we dedicated to authors of literature, and Jane Austen is one of my favorite writers. This is Chawton, where she spent her last days. She was there from 1809 to 1817. She wrote her classic novels that many people know the world over, and they actually had some good parking across the street. There was a park to play in across the street as well, and a coffee shop. So as you go into her house area, there is plenty to see. There's a gift shop, of course, with many of her books for sale as well as other trinkets. My kids' favorite room was this room right here. It was a kitchen of sorts, but it was also meant to educate the children, give them a chance, and the adults, as you can see, a chance to learn more about the time period. My kids had so much fun dressing up and pretending to bake bread. They had a chance to write letters using ink and a quill pen. Just so much different fun. And they were actually sad that the rest of the museum was not quite as hands-on. They couldn't touch and play with everything, but this gave them a chance to have some fun beforehand. And of course, as always, we took time for a family selfie. When we went into the house itself, there was plenty to look at, to learn about the time period that the Jane Austens lived in, to also learn specifically about how they lived in this house. And oftentimes in a room there was somebody there to explain things to us, for us to ask questions of. It was neat to see the wallpaper that they put in there was true to the period and true to some of the wallpaper that had been seen in the home when it was brought to them. You see the period clothing and out into the garden. And I believe they said this desk was believed to have been there and used. Right there, the wallpaper that I was talking about, those little swatches are what was left in the house, and they decided that that's what the wallpaper probably would have looked like. And you just see a bunch of different things like the pictures of
Jane Austen, along with her mother and sister, made this quilt, and that really was cool to me because oftentimes my sisters and I would craft together while we watched a Jane Austen film, so that had a lot of extra meaning to me. The kids would probably not say it was their favorite place to visit, but they did enjoy at least most of it. This statue of Jane Austen writing was definitely my favorite. You could see different ideas of how their beds might have looked at that time, and this was also fun. If you've ever seen the 1995 Pride and Prejudice film that had Colin Firth as a star, this is the infamous shirt he wore while taking a dip in the pond. As you go outside, there was a lot of area in the garden that was just beautiful with the flowers. They had yard games from the time period that the kids could play and learn how kids in that time played, so it was lots of fun. Next, we drove down the road just about a mile to Chawton House, the mansion that her brother owned. Sadly, we did not have time to tour it, but as you go up, there is a little booth where they sell tea and coffee, and you can buy your tickets there. There were also other experiences like hawk walks that looked very interesting, and the Jane Austen Trail. There is a church and cemetery where many of her family members are buried, but she was buried about a half hour down the road at the Winchester Cathedral. Time to head on the road again. This time we're headed to Oxford.
Okay, so same day, finished at Austen House, drove about an hour to Oxford, and show you a little bit around where we are. The reason we're here is because C.S. Lewis, Tolkien, I think Carol, a lot of different people are affiliated with Oxford. C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien were buddies, and they went and taught here. So anyways, we wanted to show you a little bit of some of the cool locations.
We would have loved to eat at the Eagle and the Child. It's a pub, but sadly it was closed down in March of 2020 because of the coronavirus, and it actually never reopened. Although they are said to be planning a refurbishment for it that should be finished by 2023. This pub was the place that C.S. Lewis and J.R.R. Tolkien met together with other writer friends to talk about the different things that they were writing at the time, and they called their group the Inklings. So we took a little time to try and peek inside and see if we could see anything. It looks like it is ready to be refurbished, but does not look like they have started on it yet. Across the street is the Lamb and the Flag, and that is where the Inklings moved in 1962 because of refurbishments that had been done on this establishment here. So the Lamb and the Flag is also closed currently, but again, they are set to reopen at some point in the future. About 3 miles down the road is the Wolvercott Cemetery, which is where J.R.R. Tolkien was buried. And so we went to visit his grave, and it was interesting to see. Part of the graveyard was very overgrown, which I have not seen of a graveyard before, and the one back corner was entirely full of weeds. And I guess that makes sense in some ways because many of these graves were very, very old. So it has not been upkept very well in some areas, but it was interesting to see the differences between cemeteries around the world. And it was nice that they had little signs that told us how to get to Tolkien's grave because it was pretty far back. His grave seems to be upkept very well. He and his wife are both buried there. We saw many different personal notes from fans who had come and visited, as well as coins from around the world to show that they had visited his grave. Next, we went to C.S. Lewis's grave. His is just down the road. About 5 miles down the road is the Holy Trinity Cemetery, where C.S. Lewis is buried, and it's actually back down a path near a woods, so you might think you're lost, but it's fine. Follow GPS and you will get there to this beautiful, very quiet and serene churchyard. There is a beautiful church also that looks like they have services on Sundays. We went to the bulletin board In order to find where his grave was, they have it listed on the bulletin board, so it's very easy to find, and we walked back the path to see it. Now, it doesn't look like as many people get to his grave because of it being kind of off the beaten path. And next we went into Oxford. The buildings in Oxford College Town were just absolutely beautiful. The architecture, it was starting to get dark and we were just enjoying looking at all the beautiful buildings. You could easily spend a day just walking through downtown and taking pictures of the architecture. This one reminded us of the Rialto Bridge back in Italy, and I believe this was the library. We were getting hungry and we wanted an authentic pub meal, so we went to Turf Tavern, which is one of the oldest taverns in the city, and it was funny, they had a sign up of a very familiar face and it read, "Bill Clinton. It is alleged that here is the turf that Bill Clinton, whilst at Oxford University during the 60s, did not inhale while smoking illegal substances." So we thought that was cute. Inside we had a wonderful meal. Show you some of the food that we ate. We had some cottage pie, meat pie, Yorkshire pudding, and one of the kids had a hamburger. We also met some Americans that were visiting from the States, so it was fun to see some people from home. And then we went to St. Mary's Passage. This is said to be the place that inspired C.S. Lewis with his Narnia series. You see the lamppost, and just down from the lamppost is this door. People say that it inspired him as the door to the wardrobe, and right above it looks like Mr. Tumnus, but who knows? It's just a story. By this time it's getting dark and we were getting tired, so we had to drive the 2 hours home, and we're excited for London tomorrow, our last day in London, and we'll see you there.